Hello and welcome to If You Know Your History with me, Jonny Owen, with Mark Webster. This is episode 3 of our Summer World Cup extravaganza, telling you why the 1970 World Cup in Mexico is the greatest footballing
Not even
tournament.
speculating, John.
Oh yeah.
Telling you why.
Telling you why. It's the greatest tournament ever. Certainly the greatest tournament of the 20th century and probably the greatest tournament that'll ever be, for many, many reasons that we've spoke about in the other episodes. So please make sure you catch up on them. The colour, the kits, the players, the goals, the saves, the atmosphere, the crowds, everything.
And as you pointed out at the end of the last episode, the moments.
Yeah.
Physically just list a bunch of moments like the greatest of all time in all of football.
I know.
And virtually all happened
I know.
at Mexico 70.
I was looking at play, just for argument's sake, you go like, Germany had Beckenbauer, England had Bobby Moore, Pele's there, Banks is in goals, and you think, God, they were all the greats.
It was
all.
all there.
Yeah.
Can I take you back? And I'm now referring once again, as I often am, to my bogus, snide Mexico 70 sticker book.
It's like a Bible. We keep coming back.
It released because I hadn't even noticed that I kept a record of all the results in the back there, in which Uruguay is spelt incorrectly. At least I'm consistent in spelling Uruguay wrong, which I think is good. Also, the important thing you need to know is that most of the stickers are intact, and also the word sticker is somewhat misleading because, as you'll see, they're all stuck in with sellotape, which has rotted across the decades.
I can see, yeah.
So they're all loose now.
We'll try and get some photos. If you're watching on YouTube,
I'll take some snaps of it for us. But we're cutting now to Leon on Sunday, June the 14th. In this tournament, it's the last four between the group winners, and it's England versus Germany. Yes, England got out of the group stages, and as again, John, you pointed out in the past, we turned out that tournament in the favourites list, didn't we, alongside Brazil?
Yeah. Came second in the group, but everybody wanted to avoid Germany, who was seen as very strong. But England ended up playing them because they lost to Brazil, a brilliant Brazil team, 1-0 in a game which produced for a lot of people the greatest save and the greatest tackle ever.
And arguably the greatest moment of sportsmanship at the end when Bobby Moore and Pele embraced. Beautiful moment.
Yes.
Beautiful moment. But so much all of that because we kind of it went back to stereotype. England 1966 winning extra time is a complete and utter anomaly against West Germany and indeed Germany, isn't it?
They do. I mean, and this game is very interesting for so many reasons. No great shock, but England lose the game 3-2, but they're 2-0 up. And what happens in this game, infamously for the English psyche and the sporting press, is that the player considered their greatest ever player, really, in history, Bobby Charlton, is substituted by Alf Ramsey. To save him for the next game, it's seen as hubris, a bit of arrogance. Take him off because obviously they're playing in horrendous heat and very thin air.
Yeah, it's got this. You kind of forget this bit that this as tournaments go, this had to be a squad tournament, didn't it?
Yes.
For the European teams in particular.
And there's a theory which I've read off, which Beckenbauer talks about and Charlton talks about. In the '66 World Cup, Germany's truly greatest player ever, in lots of people's opinion, Franz Beckenbauer, and England's greatest ever player, Bobby Charlton, mark each other out of the game.
Right.
Is the kind of theory. And the theory goes that when England are 2-0 up, they take Bobby Charlton off, and this allows the great Franz Beckenbauer, the Kaiser, to move forward.
He's liberated.
And as Mark will tell you, the problem with that is they've also got one of the greatest strikers that ever lived, Gerd Müller, the Bomber, who doesn't need many chances if he's got a sight to goal.
He is, Jimmy Greaves, obviously famous.
Yes.
When you think of your 6-yard box predator, we would tend to turn to Jimmy Greaves. And of course, famously Jimmy Greaves having to miss out on the '66 World Cup final through injury and therefore Jeff Hurst's form.
Yes.
Gerd Müller seemed to take that to an art form level, didn't he?
He did. So we can have a little chat about this, me and Mark. England, their greatest ever moment, as everybody knows, in 1966. Every Scotsman, Welshman, Irishman always laughs at it. We never knew. You never mention it. But it is an important moment in English history for many reasons. We mentioned it on. It's the 1960s. They rule the world culturally. London, swinging London. A great great films being made, what they call the kitchen sink genre. Incredible actors from very working class backgrounds like Michael Caine.
Oh, by the way, that's a good. We never really touched that before. It's a kind of working class hero revolution, isn't it?
It absolutely is.
Which is a brand new thing.
It's a brand new
coming
thing
out of England.
Yeah, exactly. So the Beatles, led by the Beatles, it's got regional accents. You've got people at the rise of Michael Parkinson, who's got a very Yorkshire accent, on television. So there's this whole idea that Britain is finally breaking down its class barriers, shaking off the sort of the shackles of what was post-empire, sort of the misery that Britain felt after the Second World War. Rationing is gone,
yes.
and London swings. And in the middle of all this, they win the World Cup. Yeah. So this is a massive feeling of England uniting, record crowds for the rest of the 60s, great players coming through. There's a feeling, we could go on and dominate world football and do well in major tournaments for the next generation. Everybody knows kind of what happens. The 70s arrive. There's a downturn economically. Football hooliganism. England struggled to even make tournaments.
And by the way, and their football team starts to reflect the nature of this island.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So there's a massive down, as we all know, which people argue came back again in 1990 in the Italy World Cup. On the other hand, you've got Germany who have their own very specific history. Of course, after the Second World War, national pariahs. Them in Italy, they're not even invited to the 1950 World Cup. Forget that. You're not even coming, lads. You set the world on fire. You're not coming here. But of course, what happens in 1954 is one of the most important moments in post-war German history. Certainly in West German history, they win a World Cup. The miracle of Bern. They play a Hungary team that lose one game in like 7 years, and they happen to lose the World Cup final.
Now we're talking about, in terms of being knocked off of a pedestal. I mean, England had. There's one great moment in '66. Yes. So the pedestal that we're about to get knocked off of was a relatively low bar.
Yeah,
but Hungary was a generational.
Well, the mighty Magyars, saying they lost one game. They'd all these amazing footballers that come from there that we all sort of reel off. You know what I mean? So that who become Puskas and Iraguti and all these players. My father talked about beating England famously 6-3.
And also these are men who go on to then form the modern game as coaches and managers.
Absolutely,
aren't they? Yeah.
And so you got, and then there's a revolution in Hungary that lots of people leave. People like Puskas end up in Real Madrid. We all know the story there. They become the greatest domestic team arguably ever. Him and Di Stefano win 6 European Cups. But Germany win, and they win in Bern, and there's a few things that happen there. Nobody expects them to win. They win, and somebody called Adi Dassler gives them boots with studs that sort of help in the mud. And they do some really interesting things there, which I always love about the Germans. But they know that the Hungarians are heavy favourites, and the Hungarians are very superstitious. So they know the Hungarians have requested a certain dressing room. And they send one of their tracksuit sort of guys in the kit guys to hang the Deutschland or West Germany sign on that. So the Hungarians are a bit spun out for the game because they've been sent into the dressing room they don't want. Of course it rains. The Germans have these extra studs. They go 2-0 down, but they win the game.
Yes.
And this sets the precedent for Germany. But what people have to understand is, in Germany itself, I mean, a place that, was suffering from massive war guilt, and wars, Germany suddenly feels good about itself again in the sense that they can cheer something. They can cheer something as German, which they haven't been able to do for, since the end of the war.
By the way, lest we forget, we are talking about half of Germany,
Yeah.
Because they are still obviously West Germany at this stage because of the post-war split.
Russia rules East Germany.
Yeah.
So they come back to Germany on the train from Switzerland. There's thousands of people in every train station as they travel across Germany. Walter Fritz, the famous player, is seen as a national hero. He was once captured by the Soviets in the Second World War, and he was let off apparently because somebody recognised him because he was a good footballer, and so it was a miracle that he was still alive. So there was a generation of Germans that were they were lucky to be alive because so many of them died in the Second World War, and they win this tournament. So all of Germany's pride is in its football team. They had a name, I think, called Meinschaft or something. And it means that they were the most important part of the rebirth of Germany. And the economic miracle is coming, which is finally realised by 1974. Do you know, I read a thing today. The German economy by the late 60s couldn't stop growing. No. They couldn't stop growing it. It was so efficient. It was so well run that they were going, this thing is out of control. Everybody was getting richer. But they all think it started in 54. They all say that the football team winning that World Cup is a big part of it.
Well, I mean, it's either a kind of old wives' tale or fundamentally the truth that England's productivity went up as a result of 1966.
It did.
Accident or design, who knows? But West Germany at this stage, and this must be important to West Germans of that generation, is that what they are now is they're now coming out and being a domineering force on the world stage without all of the ugly, connotations
Exactly.
that goes with.
It's something
This
they can
is
be
a
proud of.
sport.
Yes.
Yes, exactly. And you're allowed to kind of wrap yourself in the flag,
Exactly.
as it were, in this particular case, because this is a new birth country, isn't it?
It absolutely is. And they, like we spoke about in the previous episode, everybody plays in a specific way. So the Germans played in a very industrious, efficient, a bit like their economy, a way which really suited them on an international stage, and they become the world champions. So by the time they play each other in 1970, there's an extra added spice as well. I always say to people this great thing. I went to the famous museum in Paris, and it's got an amazing Second World War part of it. And of course, basically, according to them, they were abandoned in Dunkirk. And it's like, oh, okay. I thought it was, no. They were. And then, of course, the French resistance were really important. DJ, sacrificed loads of people, cut all the railway lines. D-Day couldn't have happened with the French resistance. And I thought, oh my God, of course, it's a different interpretation of history.
Yes.
You're in France now. And of course, once you go outside Britain, you realise Maradona's handball is immediately reflected with, but you had a goal that wasn't a goal in 1966.
Yeah.
And of course, you forget, everybody else goes, that wasn't a goal. And modern technology has proved it was never a goal.
Right.
And the late goal by Hurst, thank God you scored that. Otherwise,
because he
England,
kind of put a bit of daylight.
Otherwise, England would have won a World Cup with a goal that wasn't a goal.
It would have been arguably the greatest Asterix World Cup final
I
of all
couldn't agree
time,
more.
wouldn't it? Yeah,
and of course, because you brought up in Britain, you go, but Maradona's a cheat. And they go, yeah, but he scored. And they go, of course, yes. Everybody's got a different interpretation of history.
By the way, the goal he did score. So that was worth 2.
Yeah.
So,
I know. So there's a brilliant, everybody's got a different interpretation. So the Germans are playing England in 1970, and they feel very aggrieved by 66.
Yep.
So it's all set up as this mammoth sort of Titan match. But the English, interestingly enough, know in their minds that they don't see Germany as their main rivals at this point. They think we're going to have to see Brazil again in the final.
Well, I do wonder if this is the problem, because you mentioned it there with the Bobby.
Yeah.
If Alf Ramsey had decided at 2-0,
Yes.
well, guess what? We
Yes.
beat them 4 years ago.
Yes.
We're doing them again today.
Yeah.
Let's prepare ourselves for the next one, because people think we're going to win this tournament. I can see complacency and arrogance.
You're right.
Slipping in here.
They're right in there amongst the favourites. They've got a fantastic team, a great squad. You got players in there like Franny Lee's there.
Yeah.
All these. Jeff Astley's out there.
Jeff Astle was at 9. He's the new 9 on there.
They've got a really, really good team. Obviously, Jeff Hurst is like top of his game. Bobby's.
Terry Cooper's probably the best left back in the argument.
I
the world.
wouldn't say far off. Yeah.
So
they've got a brilliant, brilliant team. So there is a lot of hope that England could repeat it and win the next World Cup as well in 70.
This is arguably the phrase on which this whole game spins, in which Sir Alf Ramsey says, of all the players.
Yes.
And what he's referring to is the absence of Gordon Banks.
That's right. And what we're going to do in part 2 is we're going to tell you about the fact that Gordon Banks didn't play in that game and why, and what effect that had. And it ended up with 2 people arguing on British television, and it's one of Mark's most favourite things ever.
It's unreal. And you wait until you hear who the referee was.
You hear the referee was, and we'll tell you who the 2 players are. Hello and welcome back to part 2 of episode 3, the greatest World Cup you never saw. But we'll tell you all about why it was the greatest World Cup.
I did.
And you can, yeah, Mark
I'm
did.
the old man.
Well, and also they'll have those wonderful FIFA films back on, which they did last time, where you can watch them all. And the 1971 as well. They're all worth watching. The 66 one is incredible.
Totally.
Snapshot of Britain at the time. And we just finished up because England surprisingly lost, and it was a huge national shock. People talk about this as being sort of the end of the 60s. They say that in sporting sense it was this as the end of the 60s, and Altamont was the end of the 60s, the tragic gig with the Rolling Stones and the Beatles breakup. So there's like the things that happen where the national mood kind of changes. You kind of feel in the air. And England lose 3-2, but they're 2-0 up, and he takes Bobby Charlton off.
Yeah.
And it's a great story. I just want to tell you more quickly. Gordon Banks, who we're going to explain to you, wasn't playing. We'll tell you why now. And he was watching it in his hotel room, and he famously knocked it off when they were 2-0 up.
Yeah, because it was on delay.
That's right.
So basically, and as we find out, he's not well. So basically, he's gone, I'll leave it there then.
Yeah,
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine.
So by the time, technically, it's kind of finishing where in the hotel room,
Yeah.
Bobby Moores turned up and told him the result. So he's kind of he's watched something of the game.
Yeah.
The next thing, he must think he's in some kind of like fever dream.
I know. Well,
Because Bobby Moore's leaning over.
he's got the stomach upset. which is called, is it Montezuma's Revenge? It's called,
I believe that
which
was
is the Aztec.
yeah.
We touched on the first episode. Cortez famously killed when he took over sort of what is modern day Mexico, and the revenge was this awful sort of like sickness you can get if you're. It's a bit like Delhi belly in India. Where
It's basically stomach cramps.
Stomach cramps.
He took a fitness test and had a go, I think, at making himself available, and then just couldn't take it anymore.
Collapsed, didn't he, at one point?
Fundamentally. I mean, can you imagine? Because obviously, you're probably not even taking fluid on board, let alone solids.
And like they were saying, I never realised how, it was pretty dangerous, actually. You think, bung some electrolytes into him and get some water down your Gordon, he'd be all right. But it was quite dangerous.
There would have been some appalling tablet version of the magic sponge, wouldn't there? Like some horse tablet that had shut down his neck.
We are a historical podcast, but dysentery, which is obviously, an illness which affects you, sort of your bowels, is one of the biggest killers in history. That and malaria are the biggest killers.
Just goes to show,
and
doesn't it?
Basically all it is an infected water supply. Yeah. So you've taken something that your stomach goes, and it can be deadly, especially if you, like I said, you lack of fluids and all that. It can be a killer.
And you are in this kind of, we are in that, we're in that era where "don't drink the water" was a common phrase.
God, I mean,
I'm not saying that's what happened there, but it was kind of a deal.
It might have been. I mean, when I first went to Spain with my mates in the late 80s, I can remember one morning, first thing we do was used to buy bottled water because, don't drink the tap water, whatever you do.
Don't even brush your teeth with it.
It'll kill you. So you didn't used to brush your teeth with this thing. And I remember this one day, my mate woke up and he was hangover to hell, dehydrated, and he went, I'm going to go there. And he put his head to the tap. And we were like Gordon Banks. We dived to save him. Don't do it. We'll run to the shop.
It's a suicide attempt.
Yeah. It's like, but that was the feeling. Now, obviously, the water supply is pretty much in a lot of the world fantastic. But then, and so going to Mexico would have been listen, the Beatles go to India in 1968. Ringo Starr comes home because he's run out of tins of beans. That's all he'll eat. To this day, he's never eaten an Indian and a pizza. It's just not his thing. Do you know what I mean?
Really?
I know. Yeah.
Good Lord.
So you just go. So some people, it just affects their stomach really when they go. You go to Mexico. It'd be interesting to find out what the English took with them. Diet.
Wouldn't it be? Well, as you say, I've basically. The most important thing out there would have been a tin opener.
Tin opener.
Can you imagine turning up with 400 tins of beans and spaghetti hoops, and you forgot to bring the tin opener?
And do you know
you had one job.
You know, when I was laughing at, I'm just thinking, when they said that when Liverpool used to play in Eastern Europe in the 70s and 80s in the European Cup, they used to take tea bags with them, right? So Bob Page, you can imagine, avuncular old Bob, from the northeast, and apparently they'd go off sort of like the Eastern Europeans, always military men, and they'd go, drink, and they go, just boil us up some hot water, son. And boiling hot water kills all the germs.
That's all fine, yeah.
And then Bob Paisley would pull out from his suitcase, put these tea bags in there, son. So they have their own tea bag. We don't trust you lot. You know what you put in there. So they take tea bag. So this was a real thing, wasn't
By the way, it's funny you should mention that. With my kit bag the other day, I got a pen out the top bit of it, and there was a tea bag on the string dangling off of it.
There you go.
It felt strange.
A man before his time.
Exactly.
Well,
just always, just in case.
Just in case.
Emergency one on the go.
So, England, this is like a massive. The fallout from this is huge. The press kind of blame Ramsey because he took Bobby.
Poor old Peter Bonetti gets thrown
this
under
big thing.
the
So
bus
Peter the Cat Bonetti, whose background is what do you call it? Swiss Italian.
He's got the surname
Alpine Italian. Yeah. So he's a Reading boy. I think he famously plays for a really good Chelsea team.
He's one of that kind of youth squad that came through.
He's not particularly tall, is he? But he's very athletic.
That's right.
Hence the nickname the Cat. But does he have a bit of a name? Is he default as an England fan? I don't think so. He
looks a little bit. He kind of looks like he's not anticipating what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And he looks about a bit out of position. But then again, Muller is finishing from about 2 foot out.
Exactly.
And although he's kind of gone into a sort of half overhead kick to finish, that's where people, I think, argue that Bonetti had time to be in the right place.
Yes.
But, of course, equally, is Banks saving that?
Here
lies the rub.
But I think that's the hangover from the save of the century.
Of course it is.
Everybody's going, Banks is absolutely on the best form of his life.
Yes.
England looking good, and they lose that.
And Bonetti, I mentioned this in the previous, this is Banks 59 caps, and the backup keepers, Alex Stepney's on 1. Yeah. I think he might have left Millwall for Man United by then. And Bonetti on a heady 6 caps. So in terms of being prepared, these guys hadn't had a lot.
Here's a question for them, Mark. We're going to slip in. Do you think if Ron Greenwood would been playing Clements and Shilton alternatively every game, it might have been different?
Exactly. Well, Greenwood had lots of different ways. I mean, Greenwood at one point I think, played 5 Liverpool players.
Yeah.
You know, he was trying different variations on a theme to find a new formula for football to go forward. As you say, England in the doldrums at that particular stage.
Yeah, they were.
So are we, and this is where this part of the conversation gets interesting, because when our two protagonists step up to argue the toss, in principle, are they arguing about Sir Ralph Ramsey and and fundamentally the death of him and the nature of him as a leader? Because he basically has to take it on the chin after this, doesn't he?
He does.
And we begin the cycle of managers not lasting particularly long.
Well, tell him a little bit again. Another first 1970 World Cup, Mark, punditry.
Yes,
we have Jimmy Hill is a big part of this, but there's for the first time the BBC pretend are very traditional, as they still are in a lot of ways. They'll have a very formulaic way of putting out football, and ITV try all kinds of things. And they have a brilliant sort of set of a panel of pundits, and people like Brian Clough is on there, Georgie Best,
Derek Dugan, who's become a genuine TV personality.
That's right,
Jackie, and you had Jackie Charlton kind of getting involved at some point.
So there's all this brilliant analysis, and there's also the fun, and it's really funny when you watch about it. They all roll off in it, sort of slow down and speeded up tackles and things. Have you ever seen that? As if it's the funniest thing they've ever seen in their life.
What, the idea slow-mos?
Yeah.
Yes.
As if it's like the greatest thing, and they're all crying, laughing.
Technical innovation.
Yes, yeah.
But of course, this is the bit that we're talking about, though, strange enough, happens afterwards. Now, I do think that what 70 did, apart from giving us, as we've said, that tournament, it did give us the start of the idea of media feeling they're in a position to bring down leadership.
Yeah.
You know, up until then, I think it was due deference to Winterbottom and beyond. Yeah. It's what they do for a living. It's not our position to say otherwise. No. But it was basically, not only was it Sir Alf out at that stage, it was also basically criticism of what he did and of his players.
Yes.
Which brings us to that particular TV studio, doesn't it?
Yes. So this is a really famous thing. I mean, it's all over YouTube. This is where Malcolm Allison.
Yes.
Where was Allison at that point? He wasn't still
Allison
playing.
was, no, I think he was he Joe Mercer's assistant at that particular point at Man City?
Man City were arguably right up there with Liverpool and Manchester United. At that time, they'd won a title. They'd won a 68. They won a title. In 69, they won the FA Cup.
Yeah.
So they were like one of the top teams in the country, and he was seen as this very innovative, hot. Yeah, him and Clough were big mates. You know, the future of modern coaching.
And not only
come through West Ham, hadn't he?
He was out of the West Ham Academy. He was out a group of generation of men like John Bond, Franco Farrell, and others, who obviously go on to become influential managers and coaches themselves.
They were meeting a cafe upon it.
That's right, round the back near the bowling ground.
That's right.
What Malcolm is amongst all of those, though, is this tall, dark and handsome-looking fella.
Yeah.
Who's very hip in terms of his haircuts and his clothing.
Yeah.
Unlike a lot of those fellas I mentioned there, who were kind of very old-fashioned and stoic-looking of a previous era. And ironically, as you see on the TV episode that we said, that he's the man in the blue corner opposite him who's played in that World Cup squad and goes on to become a successful manager in his own right, also physically looks like he's from the past, doesn't he? And that's Alan Mallory.
Yes. Who we have spoken about in other episodes because a massive fan favourite in Spurs, Tottenham.
Yeah.
To the detriment of Terry Venables, who goes there from Chelsea. So they always just was all about Alan. But Malcolm Allison's not having him at all, is he?
Not at all. So Alan Mallory's sitting there in a very plain suit, and his hair's still 1950s, sort of like quiffy. Yeah. Allison's got long sideburns, a bit like
Steve McQueen.
The Steve McQueen grown out hair. He's got a Puma Slazenger golf jumper on.
That's right.
And basically looking absolutely smug as arseholes. Whereas Alan Mallory is a coiled spring who's with a sweaty top lip.
Yeah.
Jimmy Hill in the middle.
Yes.
Sort of the guy who's brought them together.
Trying to referee them, really.
Totally. And basically the gist of it, Johnny, isn't it, is that Allison says, you're no good.
Yeah.
you're not a good footballer. You're just a bit of a grafter.
Yeah.
And what's more, everything that England did wasn't any good.
That's right, yeah.
And it becomes this kind of clash of eras and ideologies, doesn't
Yes,
it?
and I think what he's inadvertently doing there, Alison, is he's having a go at Ramsey, isn't he? He's
I
saying-
believe
he's saying,
exactly.
"You're a disciple of Ramsey."
Vicariously,
Yeah.
he's getting everything.
England, for some reason, where we spoke about the Brazilian coach, the Italian coach they're all seen. Herrera as a huge influence that we've spoken to in Italy. He's seen as falling behind the coaching system of other countries. We're seeing as for the first, and it certainly ends up at 74 when England infamously, or 73, they lose to Poland not to get the 74
Yes.
World Cup. That Ramsey is a man whose glory days are behind him now.
Yeah.
And he's slowly losing pace with the
And
international
that game
footballing world.
kind of felt symbolic of that.
Yeah.
And going back to the point you made, that he thought did he think he was fireproof in taking Bobby Charlton off?
Yeah.
And then he's proved, he's taken the ultimate slam in the face.
Yes.
For that kind of arguably level of arrogance.
Yeah, well, and it's extraordinary because we can finish this episode up talking about where England ended up internationally and domestically after this, which we've touched on. England, internationally, it's an extraordinary figure. They don't qualify for another major tournament for 12 years.
Yeah.
Which is almost unthinkable now, because England qualified with these.
Well, it
to the
seemed
point,
to kick it that it seemed to kick them that hard, didn't
did.
it? It's that you've effectively half a generation has been
absolutely.
affected.
There's a point where you think, okay, England will they be fine for 74? They're not there in Germany. 78, they're not there in Argentina. They finally qualify for 1882 in Spain. And I hear people now, and it always makes me smile, will go, oh, the qualifications are pointless now. And I'm like, I remember in 94, when it was really difficult, still is, I think, to get through in Europe, and you didn't get through
No.
And now the way the pots have sort of done, where you can sort of get an easier. In them old days, I mean, England in 70 they were in with Italy in the qualifying group.
Yes.
They were in with difficult countries to qualify against.
And you saw famously from the loss against Poland,
Yeah.
that it kind of doesn't, that Poland turn up not expected to do anything.
I know.
And England basically are a bag of nerves. So it didn't matter who they were playing in that sense. Their heads went, their game went.
And this is, again, it was a great instance of what I was talking about, perspective from other places. England, and this is like, this is what, the cliched criticism of the media. They're arrogant, they put too much pressure on the team. A kernel of truth in it all. You hear it now, England can win it. This is a country that's won one World Cup in its history, and yet talk themselves being one of the favourites. So a part of you goes, well, maybe it's an idea not to talk yourself up too much, because maybe you would just. Poland, people forget, comes third in the 74 World Cup.
Yes.
Kazia Demir is one of the players of the tournament. This wasn't sort of a lucky win against a sort of team.
It turns out
they were a very good team.
Quietly been getting on with being good at what they
exactly.
do. But we just treated them without the respect that they clearly deserve.
Well, what you'll get is you'll get a lot of red top journalists who go, we should be winning these games.
Totally.
And I would say, well, why?
And it goes all the way back to where you pointed out that at the start of the 1970 tournament, which is now going to end up with Brazil versus Italy in the final, because we just talked about the game of the century quickly on that, is we were second favourites.
Yeah.
And arguably we acted like it.
Yeah.
And arguably we got our comeuppance.
Yeah. I agree.
Which is feasible.
I think that England's best chance of winning a World Cup probably would have been, it was pretty good in 2018 when they lost to Croatia in the semi-final.
Yes.
Do you remember when it won 0-up? That was a great opportunity, I think. But other than that, this was the best chance there. I know 1990 was amazing, and they lost to a very good German team, only on penalties, which is time cost, let's be fair. And Argentina were a good team. But I think an England-Brazil final would have been very, very close.
And 2-0 up against West Germany, you've got an opportunity to put this one to bed.
It's a sickener, that is.
And they blow it. So
Germany go through and they play so again, save of the century, tackle of the century, goal of the century, team of the century. This is called the game of the century.
Game of the century.
And this is a game between Germany and Italy, which is an absolute humdinger, particularly in, Mark, extra time.
Quite right. 4-3 in extra time. It's won by Italy in the end. Arturo Yamasaki is the referee.
That's right. He's a Peruvian.
He's a Peruvian, Japanese, Mexican.
That's right. There's a sizable Japanese community in Peru, isn't there?
And wow. And by the way, I think I want to be called Arturo Yamasaki from this day forth. What a great name. Uwe Seeler spent a lot of time moaning, saying that he was bent.
That's right, he does, doesn't he?
Yeah, he didn't take it well. Totally on the
for
side of the Italians.
For the generation listening now.
Which seemed harsh.
Iwizela, what a player, by
Yeah.
the way. Germany, like I said, Beckenbauer, Muller, Meyer was the keeper, wasn't he? Best considered.
Well, you had
best.
Uwe, so the kind of leftovers from '66 was
right,
Zähler, who was
Zähler.
captain
Yeah.
for both of those. Played in 4 World Cups for Germany. I
That's
like
right.
the fact that at Hamburg, should you wish to go along, I wonder if you rub it like you do on good statues. There's a giant left foot. Naked left
Yes.
foot, which is his foot, right foot, outside
Hamburg.
the ground in Hamburg.
Hamburg, that's it.
That's Uwe Zähler's giant right
Because he played
foot.
all his career in Hamburg, didn't he?
He did
That's right.
except one game
That's right.
for Cork City
You know,
versus
yeah.
Shamrock Rovers.
And he didn't know, did he?
No, he thought it was a friendly because Adidas apparently was sponsoring Cork City.
That's right, yeah.
So he comes over, he scores one from the edge of the box and one of his trademark overheads. He goes, "Thanks very much indeed, 50 quid or something like that." They go, "Oh, no. You just played in the league game, got Cork City the points." So he played one game outside of that particular circle.
It's on June the 17th. It's a semi-final. It's in Mexico City. It's, I mean, they're going to find it this World Cup. It's steaming hot. It's
Yes.
a very hot day. Massive crowd. I think it's like 102 or 3,000 there. It's like it's only a bigger crowd for the final. A fantastic West Germany, but a brilliant Italian team as well. This is the team that have sort of made up of all the 2 great Milan teams. They play a Catenaccio. It's all the inheritance of Herrera.
Yeah.
They're top to Riva, Mazzola, isn't it? Bonsignini, I remember him. So,
Yeah.
Fascetti. These are a brilliant team.
We're into operatic
Yes.
players now,
Yes.
quite literally in the way that they behave.
So in the game, Italy were 1-0 up for a long time in the game, and Germany equalised in injury time.
injury time, basically, yeah.
So that sets it up, doesn't it? And again, we were talking about very German, Mark, isn't it? That they kept going to the end, but very Italian. They tried to keep them out. So
Yes.
coming back to the same, each country has a very distinctive person. It's the nation made flesh, Mark.
Yeah.
There we are.
And
each team.
But what's important is all of a sudden, all that goes out the window in extra time because, as you mentioned earlier, they're playing in a sauna.
Yes.
And so now goals are flying in left, right, and centre because we end up with a 4-3 game.
Amazing. And so the iconic images. So again, very much of the world that we're from, which makes you. So in the modern day, when players roll around and get injured, there's very little of that in them. There's if at all. Beckenbauer dislocates his shoulder.
Yeah.
Has it strapped in and plays on.
Carries on, yeah, they've used all their subs up.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you? I mean, that's for 20 plus minutes and extra
So
time.
there's all this footage. He's got his arm strapped and he's playing football.
Yeah, big deal, is it? That's like sort of like,
Isn't it?
I'll bite your knees off. It's the Knights who say near, isn't it? Really?
His nickname is De Kaiser.
Yes.
My late grandfather Gwyn Owen would talk to me about this game, saying it was just. He was in a pub in Merthyr Tydfil called the Pendarren Ending, exactly what Mark was telling us in the previous episode. Coloured telly in there. Everybody sat around there, and he says he just remembers every cheer and every goal, which I think is again comes back to what the spirit of this World Cup was. These crowds just wanted. It was a fiesta of football.
And thank you very much. You've given us extra time as well.
Yes.
So we've got 90 minutes and another half hour and then a bunch of goals.
And the game ends up as a 4-3 sort of spectacular, doesn't it? Isn't it 4-3?
Yes.
And again, a bit like the Germans equalised in the last. I believe Italy scored. There's a goal. Italy scored like late in the game.
It's right. It's Gianni Rivera scored the extra time winner, and he came on for Sandro Mazzola. And this famously,
there's a swap. It was an AC and Inter Milan, wasn't it?
it's what because there's this theory that they can't play in the same game. Now, part of this theory is based on the fact of the Milan rivalry.
That's right, yeah.
But they're both as
I
good
love
as
this,
each other.
yeah.
But Valcareggi has invented a thing called the staffetta.
Yeah.
And it's always that Rivera would come on in the second half for Mazzola. Wouldn't play him in the same game.
That's right.
And Pele said that he was worried in the second half, which will come into the conversation.
Yeah.
He said, I'm worried about, what's going to happen, not so much in the first 45 minutes. When Rivera comes on,
Yes.
it changes the story. Arguably the better player.
This is something you hear an awful lot from Italian people and Italian football fans who talk about, which we're going to talk about the final in the next episode. But they all talk about the fact they were absolutely knackered after this game.
Yes.
I mean, wrecked, and they took that into the final, and apparently even in the final, it was the late goals that give it the flattering scoreline.
Yeah.
And a lot of them say
But they're going to be fagged out.
I mean, they were
Because Brazil cruised through against Uruguay 3-1.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This game, a lot of Italian people said, and I do kind of agree, it really took it out of the Italians because they were a brilliant team, but they had to really. I mean, they were talking
They've come from 2-0 down against England.
Yes.
and Germany, and then so Italy have then had to come in and then add their 90 minutes plus extra time to the equation. So Germany has spent, but of course in the process, Italy has spent.
They all talk. There's some wonderful descriptions, Mark, about them talking about at the end of the game. I mean, they felt like they're breathing in fire. They actually felt they were some of them passing out. Talking about both teams in the change rooms lying there for half an hour. Dangerous now. Dangerous.
Of course.
Absolutely spent.
I mean, there'd be, the water breaks that you're going to see in the World Cup.
One, quite rightly. I mean, it's all that stuff of like, we got to be...
Totally.
But this was Ali and Fraser in the Philippines. Where they said at the end, I couldn't get off my stool. I was physically done. This is the football equivalent of that. This is why it's the game of the century. These are human beings pushing themselves to the absolute limit.
Meanwhile, Brazil from down the road, absolutely fine with the conditions.
Loving it.
And have absolutely loved every match that they've played in thus far.
Would rather play without their tops, rather play as skins. Do you know what I mean? We're used to this. So it sets up this final between Brazil... We just want to say quickly, Brazil have absolutely coursed their way through this tournament. A quick mention, I mean, some of the most iconic moments in football where Pelé tries to score from halfway line. Somebody pointed this out to me the other day. They went, the two most famous clips of this World Cup that we spoke about, other than the goal, are Pelé trying to score from the halfway line. He doesn't actually score. And the famous one where he dummies the ball.
When he dummies.
Yeah, and that wasn't a goal either.
No.
So neither of them were goals.
Actually, he made a right mess of it after he'd done the fun bit first. He
played it live. But when you're a kid growing up, you grow up with this story that, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. Somebody described it once to me as, do you remember the bit in The Godfather where Sonny beats up the brother-in-law who's been, and the fight scene is really violent, he hits him with the bins. When you watch it now, he's about 8 inches away with every punch. Yeah. It's like, he's not hitting him, you can faintly see. But at the time you're going, oh dear me.
But apparently, if you go, the boy stays in the picture from the book about the Godfather. Apparently, he does bash him up with the dustbin lid because he didn't like the actor. Which is good news.
The film is very good.
The series, The Offer.
Very good.
Well, watch that. It's 10 hours. Oh. If the football gets boring, 10 hours of The Offer will get you through the making of The Godfather.
There we go.
Agree.
So, thank you very much. We're going to be on to the final next. The final and the trophy, the Jules Rimet trophy, the most famous trophy in world sport at that point, finally gets given to the Brazilians because they win it 3 times. And what a game that was.